Session review.
Let's get right back into it, everyone. Okay, so how it goes, we are going to be talking about a few new concepts we're going to be adding to the campaign, more like general concepts that should already have kind of been in the campaign, but I'm just learning a few things as we go forward here, and also just then going over our normal session review. But I want to start off with the beginning. So, one thing, a concept of D&D that I had not actually known up to this point was that magical items require attunement. I kind of had known this, but I didn't know specifically what went into it. And I kind of want to bring it into the campaign because it will help us not only become less overwhelmed by how many magical items we have so far, but also it will help us, in fact, actually just get a little bit more into the role-playing aspect of what this takes. So the idea is that if you have a magical item that requires attunement, which is most magical items, but it will be noted on the magical item, you're going to need to take a short rest to attune to that magical item, and you can only be attuned to 3 magical items at a time. So you can unattune to a magical item, essentially attune to, if you have 3 already and you want to get a new one, you can attune to a new magical item for a short rest, then unattune to the other one. Doesn't destroy the item. It doesn't mean you can't attune to it later. It more just essentially requires you to have 3 magical items you're attuned to at any time. So maybe if you have 3 that you're always going to be using, maybe you have 2 that you like, and then 1 you kind of swap it in and out depending on the scenario. But it's just really important so that we get used to the fact that even though we have many magical items, there's only certain ones you can have at a time. So I didn't know about this. Everyone only has 3 about now to this understanding, except for Bunny, who has 4. So Bunny will need to go through and unattune to one of them. I'm sorry, didn't know about this. Just the way it is, so that's on me. But this is something I kind of want to add to the campaign. I think I'll add a little bit of RP if I want a short rest to attune, but also the fact that we're going to have a lot of magical items, so it would be kind of overwhelming and possibly just be an overload if we had all of them. So just to note there. Next thing we are going to talk about is death and plot armor. So one thing is I reread the rules and I learned how death actually works. So if, let's say, the way that death actually works, if you have, let's say, 1 HP and your max HP is 20, if you take 21 damage, you would die instantly, full death. So I thought it was that a single instance of damage had to equal double your max HP. That's not actually the case. It's just that if your HP is reduced to 0 and the remaining damage you're taking is equal to your max HP, you also die. So I know we've kind of been doing the just give them 1 HP. Technically, that could lead to death. It's kind of interesting. These lead to instant death. Obviously, downing is different. You roll death saves, but I also want to bring up the concept that as I'm watching more D&D videos and really understanding it, dying isn't really a super abnormal concept, especially if your character role play is against the party and for some reason might not work with them. You might do something that leads to your death. And I feel like it's a concept that we might be against, we might be for. I have lore reasons to think about how your characters could essentially fade death, but also increase their lore, depending on where you're at. So just the concept bring up, if you really don't want your character to die, we'll talk about, not doing that. But I'm definitely going to go a little bit more aggressive on you guys. As you said, plot armor during most of what we did during the Dravina plot, which was semi-fair, semi-not fair. But I at least don't want to lead to a TPK, total party kill, as that's a real bummer. But might be looking to finish off some characters as we go in here, or at least give you more scenarios where if you don't act accordingly, you could die. And finally, role-playing, a concept that we've kind of been trying to do. I'm not really the best at this, I'll admit as well, but I'm kind of trying to get better at it as we move forward. I just want to remind you all that through D&D, we're creating your character stories. They're being told in the actual game. We're trying to deepen them. So really keep your mind open to the ways that your character would be interacting with things. And specifically, I've seen as some characters believe that their character would be adamantly against something, but they don't want to do it because the party doesn't like it. I feel as if maybe you go through the line of thought, you butt heads with the party, and maybe that leads to something. Maybe you end up dying. If you really like your character and you don't want to reroll, I mean, you could leave the campaign, but it's kind of an interesting concept to at least see where things can go. For for sure. And also, if anyone's interested, if anyone doesn't like the way their character's running and they're not interested in, let me know. I can even try to forcibly lead to a way where they die without them having to like be role played so horribly they kill themselves. So just an FYI, I just want to bring that out there. That really trying to bring these characters to life and have their stories increase as we go forward. Now off to our session review. Last session we had the trial of Heisenberg. Inu hated Heisenberg with a passion, and in his new non-bloodthirsty ways, he decided the best way to do this would be holding a trial. Inu and Diogen each fought for and against Heisenberg through many conversations over the benefits possibly of Heisenberg giving jobs to society and the negatives of him being a murderer who has done horrible things. And ultimately, through these trials and many witnesses, it was decided that Heisenberg is a flawed man. He attempted to perfect what is known as pure Nen, and in doing so, trying to perfect it, he led his family to a dangerous spot and then ultimately ended up killing them while trying to test his product in a way that he thought he could use to help them. He ended up destroying them. So he's clearly a flawed man. He didn't kill his family out of pure anger. It was simply a misunderstanding of sorts. So he has been banished to work with the Hunter organization to finalize this substance as it can be used for good, he believes, if he has done it. And he's going to use his motivation from what he has done to his family to hopefully do that. So the whole team showed that people can be redeemed and that the people that were afflicted with Dravina have really, been doing horrible things to try and, just keep their heads down. But it seems like now people of the underworld can grow up a little bit and, face their actions and become better people. So the team really showed that in a great way. And in doing so, they talked to Jerry and they talked to Tom, who both saw this and thought that in their minds they were willing to still come with Inu, but they might be best spent with their time working through helping the people of the underworld and of Riften better themselves as PepsiCo takes over. They have a very interesting idea of keeping an eye on PepsiCo. They didn't really like Vicus in any way, shape, or form, so keeping an eye on PepsiCo is really up there for them. So that is their plan. Edgar did also talk to Cruel Wrench, where they shared some love and communications between each other, essentially saying all hail PepsiCo. Edgar gave Cruel Wrench a Pepsi, given a new product that's being made in the underworld by PepsiCo, and it seemed as if PepsiCo is in the process of submitting themselves and essentially taking control of the underworld. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes, but there's more conversations of that. And as that ended, the team finally has made their way out of Riften. So the boys were the Vex, Thrall, and their organization is essentially just going to keep, working as well to make the place a better place, making the underworld a better place. And Riff was really sad to see our good friend Diogen go, but alas, he knows that they must keep forward. Riff also informed the team that they're going to have to keep an eye out on what they're doing because the Hunter organization is not going to be too happy when they see them next week, or about a week from now. So either way, the team decides to take a quick time and go to the Wizardly Forest. First, they go back to Merlin, this wonderful wizard that has the strongest potions, that was telling the team that if we go to his old house in the Wizardly Woods, which is in the forest of the Wizardly Woods, in there, middle, there's a swamp, and then in the swamp there's a cave, and at the bottom of the cave is his old house. If they go there and find the magical powder, he can make them some of the strongest potions they've ever had. So the team is on their way. They decided that Merlin, although being crazy, it might be interesting to go to the woods, and the strongest potions do sound very strong, very potion-like. So very interesting stuff. They're going to make their way there. First, they ran into Cal Thornheart, the person that once when a child was thrown into the Wizardly Woods, barely survived their lives, and now protects the woods with their full might. They told the group that they may not survive and that they kind of seem silly and unmotivated, but if they wanted to go and risk their lives in there, they were more than happy to do so. He was a little skeptical, honestly, of their ability to really make it out of there alive, but Alas, we'll see how that goes for them. He begrudgingly let them through after Inu showed that some of them did actually have some morals to them and said that they can wish their best of luck. But just be careful, as the woods is unforgiving. Speaking of it being unforgiving, seconds in, they were attacked by 4 elemental deer, one of each different element, which ended up causing some damage to the team. But ultimately, the team was able to take them out without too much of a problem. The first of many animals. And additionally, a item was given to Inu picked up an item which was an animal handling bracers. So very interesting, giving advantage on animal handling checks. A new item which does require attunement. But that has been given to Inu. Inu can surely now, if they want, work more with animals and be better with that. So we'll most certainly see how that shakes out, but more or less the deers all had magical items inside of them. So it seems, just as Kale had stated, that the magical beings in this woods are made that way because they're interacting with magical items. So very interesting to see how it's going, that magical items are just in here. So definitely a lot to be seen, a lot more items to be had, and a great start to a very interesting arc of constant animal interaction. While this was happening, though, Diogen planted two magical beans on the ground. One caused a singing stone to appear, which was making a humming noise. The other one caused a portal to appear. That portal led to the Radiant Citadel, seen on the right, which is a fantastic, extremely high-tech area, which is the accumulation of the knowledge of all of the multiverses. The team will learn more about this because they have decided to follow their mentor here, Eris Lumina, through the portal, as Eris is a very nice sorcerer that lives in the Radiant Cathedral, that loves to learn about some of the lower intelligence beings that are around, and the team seems just so stupid and interesting that she was willing to even let them come to the cathedral to see how they would react with such a crazy place. So very interesting place for them to go to really learn about how these multiverses work, and I'm very excited to see how they take it. But as it goes, that'll be the end of this session. It was great, very interesting stuff, and now we have a huge new area to explore instead of the Wizardly Woods to be expected. So, as it is, D&D is filled with a lot of randomness, and I would also like to state, if you made it to the end, which I doubt most of you actually did, I really want to try to become a better DM as we go through these. I'm really going to try my hardest. I feel like the way the last arc ended was kind of meh. I feel like I didn't really give it the grandiose ending I was hoping, so I'm hoping to not only help on my part of the RP side, but also just the world building and other things that are going on. So I'm going to start asking everyone, if they actually had a good time. I want to gauge how people feel instead of just kind of letting it go. Definitely looking for feedback from any of you. Either tell me in person or just message me, because I really want to get better at this any way I can. So thank you so much for your attention, and I am very excited to see you back in the game.